Hello, SPED 2010 students. I hope everyone is safe and well. I know that a lot of people have been affected by the storm, and my hearts and thoughts and prayers go out to everyone. I have been in contact with many students, either through phone or through email, so I hope that if I haven't been able to talk to you, it's because I've not been able to get a hold of you or you've not been able to have service to respond to my email. But just know that Water State is here for you. I'm here for you. Please reach out. I know they have plenty of resources that have been going out, but there's still many more needed. Um, it's very devastating what's happened in our communities, and we are here to support you. I know Water State homepage has on the homepage of Water State, there is links and pages that show all of the resources available where you can get showers and water and supplies. I know there's still people that are bringing supplies. So just please note that we're here for you and reach out if you need anything. Um, with that being said, I don't want anyone to worry, especially if you've been affected by the storm with due dates. So I kind of wanted to take a minute before we jump into like the course calendar and stuff and go over so we're familiar with kind of what we're doing and where we're at. So, excuse me, knowing that given the situation and the devastating effects it's had, I know some students are going to get behind, and we want you to know that we're working with you on assignments and due dates and things. So I don't want you to stress, especially if you've been affected. I will work with you any way that I can. So if you get behind, that's okay. Please, we'll work with you. Give me a call, and we can talk about it. So just please don't stress about that. I am going to keep going along with the calendar. I've thought about this a lot, and I think that to not get everyone behind, it'd be best to keep with our course calendar. But again, with that being said, I want to again elaborate and reiterate that it's okay if you get behind. It's not your fault. If I'm not going to penalize you, I will definitely work with you. So please don't stress about that. I have also reached out and called several people who are in the areas that have been affected in terms of service learning. Some of you I've called and not got an answer, or maybe you didn't pick up because you didn't recognize the number, and that's okay. Maybe you don't have internet, but I will keep trying to get a hold of those that are affected so we can kind of figure out what we need to do with service learning. For those of us that have not been affected in the service learning, um, as far as the area is concerned and your area wasn't affected, it's still going to be the same. You have to complete your 12 hours. The education department did meet, and the service learning coordinator was there in the meeting, and we discussed it. We still need to make sure, for those of us that have been placed, we need you to fill that referral confirmation form out, and you need to submit that to Teams, because once that's the last piece that we need before you can begin service learning. So you don't get that green light until that referral confirmation form is signed by your mentor teacher you're placed with, as well as the principal. So just keep that in mind. I had had several that I've given the green light to because they completed the form, referral confirmation form, and it got submitted to Teams. So they had the green light to begin your hours. I will not give you the green light until I have that referral confirmation form. So before the storm happened, I know that I had told several students to reach out to the principals that they were placed with, and I still have some who lack a couple pieces of information for required documents. Remember, it is important for us to make sure that we are completing all required documents, your background, life, proof of liability, all of those things, because if we don't have that, you can't do service learning. And if you don't do service learning, you can't pass the course, right? So it's imperative, and that's why I keep trying to reach out to those who are missing things. So please check all your stuff. If you're not sure if you've done everything you need to, or you've forgotten where you're at or who you're with, just reach out to me and we can get that taken care of. So you'll see here in our calendar, we just finished our 2-week module for Module 4, Understanding Disabilities, where we looked at high incidence disabilities as well as low incidence disabilities. And you had an autism assignment that you had to do, which was a discussion, and then an autism assignment, like a module to go through. So one of the things I want us to look at now is, now that we completed that 2-week module where we understand the two different categories of whether that disability is high incidence or low, we're going to look at the part that moves into family and community collaboration, and how important it is for families and communities to come together with the schools so we can make sure we're supporting the student the best way we know how. Now, one thing I wanted to note, you will see that the referral confirmation forms are due October 10th. These are specifically for the people that have already been placed. I told you to reach out to your principals or the contact that I gave you, and you were supposed to contact them a time where you could meet and get this form signed and also discuss your schedule. That's why that date's there. Obviously, given the situation that's happened, those of us that have been affected by a storm, these dates, we are going to be adjusted for you. But for everyone else, we want to stick to this schedule. So you'll see that on the calendar. And by the way, this calendar is inside of our getting started, read this first section in our course. So I wanted to kind of also show you, you will have your Module 5 quiz. You will have an IRIS module to kind of work through. You will not be submitting any note sheets with this one. You're just going through. I still encourage you to do the assessment component because it connects wonderfully to our textbook, as well as lets you get a deeper meaning and be able to relate the content a little bit more than just reading the textbook. So that's why I would say that assessment piece really gives you feedback in that IRIS module. I really think this module is really great. It's one of my favorites. So please make sure that you go through that, even though you're not going to be actually submitting the assessment this time. What you will be graded on, though, is you will be completing a discussion. You will be reading an article. It's not a big article, but it's talking about guidelines for teachers when we're talking about successful parent involvement and what that would look like for you. And you will be answering some questions and responding to at least 2 classmates. So that's basically how you'll get assessed. So I want to take a time now and go into the course. So if you'll note here, let me go back real quick. You'll note here that Module 5 is going to end that unit for us, right? You'll see that midterm exam is to be announced, which means that Module 5, right, we have 10 modules in total, so we have 2 exams in this class. We have a midterm and a final. So you'll see that after we get through with Module 5, we will be having a midterm exam. So this is basically our halfway point after we get through with Module 5. So in Module 5, we're really looking at the role of parents and caregivers and what role they play. And how do we, as family and school, have a successful partnership? How do we collaborate together? I do have your module overview and outcomes. It's always important for you to check this section because it's letting you see not only objectives, right, but it gives you a synopsis and recap, a summary, if you will, over how important this module is and what you're going to be looking at in this module. So it's kind of an overview. So I always tell students, always start out with that, as well as looking at the keywords and concepts, right? These are the things you're going to be seeing not only in the IRIS modules, maybe you'll see them in the additional PowerPoint slides I give you, as well as your textbook chapter. So just please make sure you're looking at those sections first. Another thing that is really good for you to take note of before you dive into this module is looking at the standards. Now remember, we always have 2 sets of standards that we are looking at in this class. Okay, so we're looking at the INTAS standards. So these are the teacher professional standards. So we're looking at learner development, learning differences, learning environment, and leadership and collaboration. Then we're also having the set of Council for Exceptional Children standards. So we've got learning environments, instructional planning and strategies, as well as collaboration. So these are the standards that we're going to be hitting in this Module 5. Now, if you'll look here, you're going to be looking at reading chapter 7. So chapter 7, even though we're in module 5, up to this point, modules have kind of aligned with the textbook chapter numbers. But here in chapter 7 is going to be in module 5. So don't get confused. Don't read chapter 5, read chapter 7, because that's what falls under family and community collaboration. I also have some extra readings here that I think are helpful as resources. You do have to read chapter 7, but I give you some additional readings here. You've got a publication about PTIs and CPRCs and how they relate to collaboration. Also looking again back at IDEA when we were talking about legislation, talking about parent participation is specifically in that part B. It's kind of like a Q&A. It's really, really eye-opening. It's kind of neat because it connects it with IDA, right? And then, of course, in your Tennessee Special Education Framework, I really want you to look at the sections of pages 11 through 17 because it focuses on parent collaboration, which is very important for us to look at as a teacher. Now, as always, I always give you the textbook slides because I feel it's important because it goes along with the textbook, outlining kind of what's important in chapter 7. I also give you an outline. Now you can fill this out if you want. I just put this up there to kind of help you. It goes along with the slides and the slides go along with the textbook. It's just a good way to look at the different sections in chapter 7, kind of outlining those important things we're talking about. Now, one of the things I have here as a resource for you to look, it's kind of like an audio, if you will, instead of a video, but it says video audio. And what this is there's a lady, her name is Ann Turnbull, and she's going to be talking to you about what it means when we say a family professional partnership framework and how important that is as a teacher in the classroom when we're working with families, especially in inclusive classrooms. So that's kind of an extra resource for you to look at. Another thing that I put out there for resources that I find might be helpful, as always, if you don't want to listen to audios or videos and you're a read-write learner, I have a transcript for that. So that's right underneath the audio video, so that might be more helpful for you. Now, as far as PowerPoints, I gave you 2 additional PowerPoints. Now, one of them is related back to parent rights, which is important. You need to know parents' rights if we're collaborating with them. But the one that I really like too is the collaborating with parents. And this PowerPoint really is important for you as an educator to look at how do you collaborate best with the parent and how can you support them. So those 2 PowerPoints are really good to kind of dive deeper into what we've been talking about. Now, what are you going to be doing and how are you going to be assessed? Well, as I mentioned when we were looking at the calendar, you will be completing an IRIS module of family engagement. I highly encourage you to do the assessment, even though you're not going to be turning any note sheet in or the assessment this time. This module is wonderful. So just please take advantage of that. The other thing that you're going to be looking at completing is this discussion board. Now, there is an article here I want you to read called Guidelines for Successful Parent Involvement. And what you're going to do is you're going to read the article, and then you are going to complete these questions. Now, whenever you're completing discussion questions, think about it as if you were in class, right? And not an online class. I want you to think about, maybe even take some notes, right, when you're reading the article, because I want you to use that to answer these questions. So what did you feel that was the 2 or 3 most important concepts for you? And I want you to think about you as a future teacher, right? So what did you take away that was important? The other thing I want you to think about is maybe something that you kind of were confused about or you were sort of unclear, right? And you're going to talk about that. And then the last thing is, what's one thing you would ask your classmates about their understanding or thoughts of the reading? And what that does is that opens up for you to be able to reply, right? Because maybe a lot of people had the same thoughts that took it away. And maybe there was some that had the same kind of things they had questions about. But one thing that is going to help drive this discussion is looking at what are their thoughts and understanding of what they read and how it applies to them as a classroom teacher. And then you're going to respond to that. Okay, so when you're thinking about responding, I really want you to look at what they put on this last part. That's going to help drive the discussion. Now, you will have a Module 5 quiz, and I did put a Nearpod quiz review for you. So keep in mind that's there to give you feedback to see how you're doing with the content, right? So that's available for you as well. Also for the anytime you do time you do a discussion, you have a rubric, so that rubric should work. You click on it and it'll tell you how I'm going to be grading the discussion for you on this assignment. All right, well that will wrap up Module 5 for you. I will be sending a date out of when you will be completing your midterm exam and how long you have, so how long it will stay open, so you'll know. So at this point, I still want you to be looking at all your outlines and start studying, because you will have to be able to use modules 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this midterm. So I really want you to go back and study and be able to think about the quizzes in question. Now remember, on the midterm, every quiz you've had, though that midterm exam, those questions are coming from those quizzes. So you're going to be able to see that they're the same types of questions, right, that you've already taken in each quiz for modules 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I don't want anyone to get nervous about the midterm. It's already going to be over the quizzes that you've had. So a lot of the information is going to pull from those quiz test banks, if you will. All right, so if you have questions about Module 5, or if you've been affected by the storm and you're just now getting to see this, reach out to me if I've not spoken to you. If you have spoken to me but you need extensions on any assignments because you have been affected, please reach out to me. If you have questions about the service learning, please reach out to me. And don't forget to look at the course calendar, because that'll help kind of see where we're at, where you are. And if you're missing anything, or you need to have a meeting on the phone with me and we can talk about these things, okay? Especially about service learning, I've reached out to several of you. It's important, especially those who are not affected, to keep going and keep getting this done. If you've already had the green light, do your hours. If you haven't reached out and you are able to begin your service learning hours after I get that referral confirmation, get that referral confirmation form back to me, so that way you can get the green light and start. So if you have questions about anything, please feel free to reach out to me. I want to support you, and I know it can be a little bit confusing sometimes. All right, guys, please stay safe, and until next time, take care.